Good evening, my wonderful friends. Meg is here. Welcome back to the library. Got my dog in my lap here. Got a warm cup of tea. And I wanted to share with you books that soothe the soul. You know, there's something about the right words, the sounds, the sound behind the sounds that make everything okay. And so I was going to ask if you'd want to just spend a little time with me. I'm going to be reading beautiful words from Circe, from the picture of Dorian Gray. We're going to go to Circe's island for a little bit and see if you don't just feel a little better. I could rise and step into my woods. Often my lion would pace beside me. It was the deepest pleasure walking in the cool air, the damp leaves brushing at our legs. Sometimes I would stop to harvest this flower or that. And day by day the island bloomed. My garden climbed the wall of my house, breathed its scent through my windows. I left the shutters open by then. I did what I liked. If you asked me, I would have said I was happy. Are you already starting to feel that peace? I went out to my garden. I weeded the same weeds that always grew and planted the herbs I'd gathered. They looked strange away from the moonlit hollows, crowded in among my glossy, bright beds. In defiance, I threw myself into my old life. I did what I liked. The moment that I thought of it, I sprang upon the beaches, rearranged my garden. I called the pigs and scratched their bristled backs, brushed the sheep and summoned wolves to lie panting on my floor. The lion just rolled her yellow eyes at them, but she behaved herself, for it was my law that all my animals bear each other. And every night I went out to dig my herbs and roots. I did whatever spells came to mind just to feel the pleasure of them knitting in my hands. And in the morning I cut flowers for my kitchen. And I rose from my stool and made myself walk the island, admiring the changes every hour brought. The water striders skimming over the ponds, the stones rolled green and smooth by river currents, and the bees flying low, freighted with pollen. The bay was full of lashing fish, and the seeds broke from their pods. Spring passed into summer, and summer into fragrant autumn. There were mists now in the morning, and sometimes storms at night. Winter would come soon with its own beauty, the green hellebore leaves shining amid the brown, and the cypress trees tall and black. I let the island plead for me, speaking with its eloquent beauty. Every day the stones shed more of their icy chill, and the blossoms swelled. We ate picnics on the green grass. We walked on the sun-warm sand and swam in the bright bay. I took him to the shade of an apple tree so that the scent would waft over him while we slept. I unrolled all of Aya's wonders like a rug before him, and I saw him begin to waver. The shutters were open. It must have rained in the night. I thought the air that drifted in felt washed and very clear. Each sound, bird trills, fluttering leaves, the hush of waves hung in the air like a chime. I dressed and followed that glory outside. The wind rippled past me like lyre notes, and my breath seemed to pipe in harmony. A dewdrop fell from a branch. It struck the earth like the ringing of a bell. Back at the house, I made a small fire in the hearth. Though we did not need it, the night was warm, summer waxing to autumn, but I wanted the smell of cedar in the air and the tang of my herbs, which I had sprinkled over the flames. Isn't that beautiful? How about some picture of Dorian Gray? Are you already feeling the power that are in words? Beautiful words. How they can heal the mind and the soul. I'll never forget the first time I read the very first chapter of A Picture of Dorian Gray. I never knew words could be this beautiful. It says the studio was filled with a rich odor of roses. And when the light summer wind stirred amidst the trees of the garden, there came through the open door the heavy scent of the lilac, or the more delicate perfume of the pink flowering thorn. From the corner of the divan of Persian saddlebags on which he was lying, smoking as was his custom innumerable cigarettes, Lord Henry Wotton could just catch the gleam of the honey-sweet and honey-colored blossoms of a laburnum, whose tremulous branches seemed hardly able to bear the burden of a beauty so flame-like as theirs. And now and then the fantastic shadows of birds in flight flitted across the long tussore silk curtains that were stretched in front of the huge window, and producing a kind of momentary Japanese effect and making him think of those pallid jade-faced painters of Tokyo who, through the medium of an art that is necessarily immobile, seek to convey the swiftness and motion. The sullen murmur of the bees shouldering their way through the long unmown grass, or circling with monotonous insistence round the dusty gilt horns of the straggling woodbine, seemed to make the stillness more oppressive. The dim roar of London was like the burdened note of a distant organ. In the center of the room, clamped to an upright easel, stood the full-length portrait of a young man of extraordinary personal beauty, and in front of it, some little distance away, was sitting the artist himself, Basil Hallward. Oh, I can't even tell you what I feel. I return to these books every day. It's my peace of mind. It's my solace. It's beautiful. You guys know usually I do hot chocolate and marshmallows, but tonight I was feeling just peppermint tea, and it's just perfect for this evening. I'd love to know who's still with me. Go to the comments and just say hello, and I'll read some more of this beautiful text. Some subtle influence passed from him to me, and for the first time in my life I saw in the plain woodland the wonder I had always looked for and always missed. He is never more present in my work than when no image of him is there. He is a suggestion, as I have said, of a new manner. I find him in the curves of certain lines and the loveliness and subtleties of certain colors. And tilting his hat and looking up at the little clouds that were raveled skeins of glossy white silk were drifting across the hollow turquoise of the summer sky. There was a rustle of chirruping sparrows in the green lacquer leaves of the ivy, and the blue cloud shadows chased themselves across the grass like swallows. How pleasant it was in the garden, and how delightful other people's emotions were, much more delightful than their ideas, it seemed to him. One's own soul and the passion of one's friends, those were the fascinating things in life. Lord Henry Wotton went out to the garden and found Dorian Gray burying his face in the great cool lilac blossoms, feverishly drinking in their perfume as if it had been wine. He came close to him and put his hand on his shoulder. "You are quite right to do that," he murmured. "Nothing can cure the soul but the senses. just as nothing can cure the senses but the soul. That is one of the great secrets of life, to cure the soul by means of the senses, and the senses by means of the soul. The domes that on the water dwell pursue the melody in clear drawn cadence and swell like breast of love that sigh. My chains around a pillar cast, I land before a fair and rosy pale facade at last upon a marble stair. How exquisite they were as one read them. One seemed to be floating down the green waterways of the pink and pearl city, seated in a black gondola with a silver prow and trailing curtains. The mere lines looked to him like those straight lines of turquoise blue that followed one as one pushed out to the Lido. The sudden flashes of color reminded him of the gleam of the opal and iris-throated birds that fluttered around the tall honeycombed campanile, or stalked with such stately grace through the dim, dust-stained arcades. And leaning back with half-closed eyes, he kept saying over and over to himself, "A facade of rose on a marble stair." Look at that great honey-colored moon that hangs in the dusky air. She is wanting you to charm her, and if you play, she will come closer to earth. This is a little reading from Virginia Woolf's The Waves. It says, the sun had not yet risen. The sea was indistinguishable from the sky, except for that the sea was slightly creased as if a cloth had wrinkles in it. And gradually, as the sky whitened, a dark line lay on the horizon, dividing the sea from the sky, and the gray cloth became barred with thick strokes moving, one after another beneath the surface, following each other, pursuing each other perpetually. As they neared the shore, each bar rose, heaped itself, broke, and swept a thin veil of white water across the sand. The wave paused and then drew out again, sighing like a sleeper whose breath comes and goes unconsciously. Gradually, the dark bar on the horizon became clear, as if the sediment in an old wine bottle had sunk and left the glass green. Behind it, too, the sky cleared, as if the white sediment there had sunk, or as if the arm of a woman crouched beneath the horizon had raised a lamp, and flat bars of white, green, and yellow spread across the sky like the blades of a fan. Then she raised her lamp higher, and the air seemed to become fibrous and to tear away from the green surface, flickering and flaming in red and yellow fibers like the smoky fire that roars from a bonfire. Gradually, the fibers of the burning bonfire were fused into one haze, one incandescence, which lifted the weight of the woolen gray sky on top of it and turned it into a million atoms of soft blue. The surface of the sea slowly became transparent and lay rippling and sparkling until the dark stripes were almost rubbed out. And slowly the arm that held the lamp raised it higher and then higher until a broad flame became visible. An arc of fire burnt on the rim of the horizon, and all around it the sea blazed gold. The light struck upon the trees in the garden, making one leaf transparent and then another. One bird chirped high up. There was a pause. Another chirped lower down. The sun sharpened the walls of the house and rested like the tip of a fan upon a white blade and made a blue fingerprint of shadow under the leaf by the bedroom window. The blinds stirred slightly, but all within was dim and unsubstantial. The birds sang their blank melody outside. Oh, Do you feel that? Wow. It actually makes me emotional. And I feel that healing taking place. All the worries going away. When you're filled with beauty, just all the ugliness just flees. It's that light that darkness cannot enter. Beautiful words. Can I read some more to you? So this is another one of my favorites. You know, these books, they really are my best friends. They give me so much comfort and companionship. And I love my wonderful friends meeting my other wonderful friends. And so this is Shadow of the Wind. I still remember the day my father took me to the cemetery of forgotten books for the first time. Every book, every volume you see here has a soul, the soul of the person who wrote it and of those who read it and lived and dreamed with it. Every time a book changes hands, every time someone runs their eyes down its pages, its spirit grows and strengthens. Every book you see here has been somebody's best friend. Now they have only us, Daniel. Do you think you'll be able to keep such a secret? For according to tradition, the first time someone visits this place, he must choose a book, whichever he wants, and adopt it, making sure that it will never disappear, that it will always stay alive. It is very important promise for life, explained my father. Today is your turn. But I felt sure that the shadow of the wind had been waiting for me there for years, probably since the day I was born. All right, my wonderful friends, I love you.